Can you give us a brief introduction to what the 7000 series is and what it means for Miele? It's a new line, a new series.
Yes, yes. And there's a lot to talk about when we talk about Generation 7000, but I'll go take a step back first and talk a little bit about why Generation 7000, where we're coming from with Generation 7000. And it really builds on the success that we had with Generation 6000, right? So as nice and as beautiful as Generation 7000 is, we started to really, build this portfolio for the US market over a couple of generations of appliances. And we started to introduce colors and some of the 30-inch appliances and some of the, additions to the assortment to really kind of fill in multiple gaps when it comes to really the perfect installations, as well as technologies and some of the really cool different appliances when you talk about combi steam ovens, kind of appealing to new uses and really the needs of people who are looking for healthier cooking. Those are things that we added in Generation 6000, right? And now we're expanding on that. We're really building on this beautiful design line that we had introduced. So this is really an evolution. Mm-hmm. And we're expanding the use cases when it comes to, or the options when it comes to the installation. So, I mean, you see a little bit behind me already. We'll talk about it as we go through this, but there's really, it's an evolution of where we were. And it's a huge part of who we are as a company that defines who we are and isn't just about the built-in appliances, but also all the other parts of our business, right, that go into the kitchen. So we're not selling just an oven. We're also selling built-in refrigeration. We're also selling dishwashers. So there's many pieces that come together. So this really is very important for us.
How long ago was this new generation starting, its design process and its research process?
So I've been with the company now for a little bit over 9 years. And when I started, we were just getting ready to introduce Generation 6000. Mm-hmm. And at that point, we were already talking about Generation 7000. Right. So we're already working on the next generation. Because yes, I mentioned that it's an evolution, but there's also new technologies. There's also research that needs to be done. Part of the research that we did during that time was, and a lot of that research is actually done here in the US, is going to different markets and talking to experts in those markets. It could be people that we work with. It could be people that are the cooking side. It could be even futurists, right? Which is a cool title. When you're talking to people who are really looking at what are the trends down the road, not next year, not 2 years from now, but really 5 to 10 years out. Those are the things that we're looking at as we're building these generations and really trying to anticipate where we're going to go. Things, certain things we can't anticipate. We can anticipate things like the health trends or how people are going to be using their kitchens in the future. But then, of course, there are things like pandemics that we can't plan for that may impact the way people look at their kitchens, and that changes the way people are looking at their kitchens in a fairly short period of time. But yes, it's a long process, and we start very early.
So talking about trends, maybe we can start in a certain sense, which is, we were talking about with you on a separate call about how you guys see the kitchen space having evolved over a period of time, and its use, its programming, everything about it has kind of changed over the last number of decades. And it's also changed in a certain sense because of the pandemic. Can you talk about what changes you see in the kitchen?
Yeah. So there are quite a few changes in the kitchen. I think there's the importance of certain appliances too in the kitchen. We, of course, sell a whole assortment of appliances. And as we innovate some of the products, as I mentioned before, the combi steam oven, for instance, when that came into our product assortment, that was something that people wanted in their kitchen. So they didn't just want that traditional 30-inch oven, which, it's the must-have. It's a staple in your kitchen. but they wanted to add to that now new functionality, new options when it comes to cooking to possibly fit their lifestyles or fit their needs when it comes to, you know, having something that's quick, but also healthy, right? We see that trend, of course, evolve over time, but it becomes more and more important to people. And I think it changes the way that you look at your kitchen, the way you set it up. One of the trends that actually we've seen, and I'm sure you know anybody in the design community knows this better than I do, but you know, the growth of islands in kitchens has been tremendous over the years, right? I lived in a house that was built in the 1960s a few years back, and there's no such thing as an island, right? The island, the kitchen was for preparing food, and then you brought it out to the dining room. And that's, you know, the kitchen was not a place that was really for the person that may be cooking and cleaning, but not for presenting it to the guests. And I think over the years, we've seen that trend. Of course, the islands have gained importance because part of what you're doing in the kitchen is entertaining. And we see that trend in part by the popularity of things like coffee systems, as you see behind me, right? Coffee systems have been more and more important for people to add to their kitchen because in part, it's something that they like to use and also to a little bit show off, quite frankly, right? It's
yeah, I've seen that firsthand. Take a look at my coffee machine. Oh, exactly. Wow, impressive.
It's a great conversation piece, and but it's also great for entertaining when you're you know, eating appetizers at the at your island, or you're eating dessert after dinner at your island. This is where you're sitting there and you reach back and you go, okay, you want a coffee? It's very convenient. So I think the spaces being a place to entertain has definitely been a trend that we've seen evolve over the years. Now, what's changed a little bit, and I think there's a lot of assumptions or theories we had of how COVID's going to change everything that we know so far, right? I do think that part of what happened to the kitchen, the evolution of the kitchen during this time, is the fact that people are thinking more about how can I cook together with my family, possibly, right? It brings your family together. You cook at home a little bit more. But I will say that, right now, if you look at it, people are going to restaurants more than ever before, right? Or trying to go. And I think, people still see the importance of their kitchen, but it may not be as dramatic that everybody's now just going to cook from home. What I think is more dramatic is the fact that you're working from home, right? You're working from home in the future, most likely, at least part of the time. And that's where things, again, going back to the coffee system as an example, you want that convenience. You're not running out to get coffee at Starbucks every morning. You now have a reason to have a coffee system at your place. You can kind of support the argumentation with your significant other, possibly, to make that happen. And part of it is the fact that you're working from home. You want to be able to get quality coffee. You want to treat yourself. You want to make it a space that really is kind of designed around the way that you work and your lifestyle. So I think that's an important part. Again, combi steam ovens, for instance, are great, not just for preparing really healthy meals and elaborate dishes, but they're also convenient. They're quick to warm something up and to kind of rehydrate your leftovers to make them better than they were, than what you would expect to get out of a microwave. So there's definitely some new directions that we're going after the pandemic.
I do love the the reason for getting a new coffee machine. I think that's great. It is for sure true that the kitchen has become much more open and become much more of an entertainment space, and we all acknowledge that. It's actually odd to think about because now I can't really imagine designing a home that has one kitchen and have that be as closed off as they used to be, without an island, without a space for people to sit and to talk and to converse, because everyone goes to the kitchen. It's a place where There's the food and the coffee there. Of course, I want to be there. We started to see more recently that, and this commentary on the kitchen sort of applies to a lot of other areas in the house. I think specifically the great room, which has a lot of times the kitchen, the dining, the living, and all of it kind of merged into one. But we've seen more recently a little bit of, I guess you could call it pushback from clients who want the ability to close off certain areas and have flexibility to do that. In part of the, I think probably in part because of the pandemic, some people realize like we can't live in one giant open box. It becomes difficult,
Right. Yeah, I think the entertaining piece is still there, right?
Yeah.
And I think part of the change possibly could be a little bit longer term is the fact that you may be entertaining smaller groups as well, right? So you may not have quite as many big parties and get-togethers. So what place is better for entertaining, your neighbors or, a few friends that come over? Your kitchen really is that center of attention. It's easy to do it there. You don't have to do anything too formal when you're going to the dining room, which always had that kind of formal, now it's a real dinner. Kind of setup where this becomes much more casual and flexible.
Yeah, and you had mentioned also something interesting, which is convenience. And what seems to be fascinating about a lot of the features or technologies and the things you guys are incorporating with the 7000 series is that there's a very high level of convenience for the users, both in the interfaces being simplified and clean, but also you kind of mentioned how quickly things can happen, so that people aren't having to spend a whole lot of time making coffee or spending a whole lot of time fussing with dials and contraptions and convoluted ways to do something.
Yeah, I think convenience is a important factor, and it's one of those things that you mentioned. I mean, we talk a little bit about the pandemic and how that's impacted us, but in our lives. But you always want something that's convenient. You want something that's easy to use. And as products get more complicated with feature sets, right, and all the things that they can do, and we saw this when we first introduced our first combination steam oven, convection oven, is people were trying to figure out, okay, what do I do with this? Like, how do I use convection and steam together? And I can use different percentages of steam together with the convection. I can put different steps into the program. And, it was all a little bit overwhelming for people when they heard about the capabilities of the product. But I think the key here is, which really goes throughout all of our appliances, is the fact they can do a lot, for sure. But they can also do things in a very simple way, right? There's a lot of automation here that makes experiencing the quality and the performance of the products so much easier. So when we're talking about combi steam ovens, yes, you can really go into details and you can go to, whatever, 45% steam together with convection, and you can put multiple steps in there so that you end up kind of browning at the end and turning off the steam altogether. But you can also use an automatic program to do the things that you want for you, which gives you perfect results. So I think the versatility there is definitely making things so much easier, even though they may be intimidating at first. And I think part of that really goes into now having connected appliances going forward that give even more capabilities and make your life even really easier than ever before, because you've got that capability of learning more about the appliance, configuring the appliance the way that you want to without having to go through, some people just would prefer to kind of use a different interface possibly, right? Than on the appliance, even though these are pretty easy to use. But it gives you more capabilities and an easier way to get there. So I think it really speaks to what you can do and how easy it is to use these appliances.
And it's an interesting design problem to solve when you have a product that has the capacity to do really sophisticated things, and it has the capacity to be micro adjusted at a more granular level, and you want to offer that ability to people who want to dial into 45% and whatnot. But you also have to figure out a whole bunch of pathways for other folks to just do things simply. And thinking about it actually from a designer standpoint, from a user interface design standpoint, that's quite a task.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, if you work from home and maybe you work more than if you were working in the office, right? And you have to make dinner, at least you have one setting, you put the thing on, you don't have to worry about it, keep an eye on it, figure it out, which is a pretty big convenience. Yes. Do you see in the future where maybe, I don't know, in like 50 years from now, we would have, I don't know, like I'm going a little crazy in the thinking, but an oven attached to a fridge and the oven is making the food. Like, are we ever going to get to that point, you think?
Now you're putting on your futurist hat, which is very exciting. Well, I think that's exactly, what we look at is how do we make it easier for any user, for the owner of the appliances, to really have basically, and I mean, these are not things that are way out there. This is definitely not 50 years out. Not that you're going to have it could be a refrigerator that also cooks, but having the ability to basically catalog what's in your fridge, right? And creating recipes out of that, or creating shopping lists that guide you to, what do I need to get that I don't have already? To make something that, or get recommendations as to what could be made for tonight, right? Making your lives easier in every aspect, and also kind of tying into what your health is, right? What's healthy for me? What should I be eating? And what are some options that I may not have had in the past? So I think the connectivity between the appliances really opens up many avenues to go in the future, and kind of future-proofs a little bit the appliances as well, right? So, I mean, we build appliances to last a long time, but as we all know, technology sometimes moves on quickly, and we're used to disposing of things, right, and replacing them. And we want to make sure that these products really are somewhat future-proof.
Yeah, there's a number of interesting things there. The first was that, you mentioned refrigerator keeping track of what you have in stock and sort of forming a list that maybe of things you're missing, and even understanding how this all ties to your health. So there's a certain kind of documentation of metrics component to all of this. But the other was, you mentioned briefly, which is that there's also the potential for, therefore, new things to be introduced to you that maybe you wouldn't be introduced to otherwise. New recipes or new whatever it might be that you have this database of, or a new way to use things. You had mentioned that the connectivity between appliances is potentially very impactful. Can you talk about specifically why that would be the case and what kinds of appliances are connecting with each other?
Yeah, I think there's many options when it comes to the appliances being connected, and we try to create this ecosystem now between the different appliances that will make things much easier as we're going forward. Part of as an example, right, of the connectivity, it could be that as you're cooking in one appliance, right, and you're cooking multiple dishes. Think about Thanksgiving, right? You have your turkey in your 30-inch oven, and then you've got your sides possibly in a combi steam oven. You want to make sure that everything is ready at the same time. Now, it's always been up to you to figure that out, right? It's okay, well, I got to turn on combi steam oven at a certain time to match up with the turkey that'll be ready at a specific time. Now, think about the oven and the combi steam oven communicating with each other, right? And being able to say, okay, turkey is at this level, using a roast probe or our wireless, ideally our wireless precision probe. And then combi steam oven gets a signal that says, okay, you're going to need 45 minutes to cook whatever is in there. Start cooking. So that communication, as simple as it may be, right, is one way that these appliances, as they're getting smarter and interacting and able to, kind of coordinate, will make your lives much easier.
That sounds pretty awesome.
That's pretty cool.
There's many ways to go. I mean, that's, there's, when you think about kind of what the capabilities are, I mean, we're still at a point where people are just starting to understand what the benefits are of connectivity, right? I mean, I've been on many calls where people have asked that question, and people ask me that question. Friends of ours ask the question, okay, why do I need something connected? But I think we're getting to a point where people are starting to understand at least the basics, right? The one of the most basic things that happened to me is I was testing one of our new combi steam ovens, and one of the things working from home, one of my problems is I'll put something to warm up into the oven, and what happens? I forget about it. And then later on, I see the charred remains of what was going to be my lunch, right? In this case, I can get an alert through my phone, and I can turn it off while I'm still on a call. I don't have to excuse myself. I can just shut it down.
From your phone?
From my phone. And, it gives you peace of mind for sure. If you're traveling, right? If I'm away from my house, and we've all had the instance where like, oh, did you shut down, whatever appliance? That's of course peace of mind. But the other thing is the fact that you don't want the interruptions in your life. You don't want to have to go check on things while you're on a Zoom call or, Microsoft Teams meeting. You want to be able to do these things and check on them remotely. And we're on our phones every day, right? It's easy to do, and it's easy to get alerts.
I have to admit, I've done that a few times where I actually stand in front of my oven watching, the broil mode to make sure it gets toasty but not burnt. And the best way to do it is just standing in front of it. And I'm like, I could be doing something else,
Well, you guys have an interesting feature, which reminds me, and I forget the name of it. Oh, Food View, I think is what you call it. And there's an HD camera inside of the oven, right?
Yeah.
And you can watch your food.
Yeah, no, so as you're saying, it's exactly right? So first of all, if you told somebody, 5 years ago, you said, okay, there's a camera in your oven, people were like, okay, why do I don't get it. Now, really, the key here is, think about it as you're entertaining and you're sitting outside, and on your deck or your patio with friends. And how often did somebody have to kind of, it's either me or my wife that will be like, all right, it's your turn to check. And in this case, you could check, and that's why it's the HD camera is really important. You could check from your phone. You open up the app, and you're like, okay, is it done yet? How brown does it look? And with the HD capability, of course, there's many more capabilities in the future, but right now you get such a good view of what's going on in your oven. You can actually see how things are coming along. So not only do you have, of course, our wireless food probe, but you also have the capability now of looking, okay, how's it looking with the browning? And at that point, you can adjust the settings, or you can turn it off if you want to. So there's a lot of things that you can do which don't interrupt your life, which if you need a little bit of time, you're still entertaining, you want to finish a glass of wine before you go in, now you don't have to scramble and let's quickly get the food and interrupt things.
So while we're talking about features with the oven, are there anything else interesting with that particular appliance?
Yeah, I think one of the things that ties into really Food View, and again, if you're entertaining, one thing is that if you're turning off the oven and you say, okay, it's done, I got to shut it off. One of the inherent problems with that is the fact that food doesn't stop cooking when you turn off the oven, right? So there's still a lot of temperature in there. It's still going to keep cooking and browning. So in the end, you would still have to run in and kind of turn things off. In this case, unless you got it before, it was perfect. In this case, we do have the feature now that opens the door to allow the temperature to, be brought down significantly in a very short period of time that really kind of airs out some of lowers the temperature. which is called taste control, that now keeps the food at that perfect doneness level, so to speak, right? Which really ties into the functionality. So the nice thing really about these appliances is, as much as these things were, okay, camera, that's kind of a gimmicky thing, right? Door that opens is kind of gimmicky, but they really have a purpose, right? It's not just for show. It's not for bragging rights. It really is purposeful innovation.
And that's a good point, because it touches on a larger theme or question about the whole smart home space and a way of doing a house, which I think some people, it tends to be that there's some people on one side of the line that are super excited about it, and there tend to be folks who are much more interested in technology, and they're excited to fuss with all of the settings. They want their lights to be a disco party. They want everything to be controlled by their phone, which is a bit extreme. And then there's other folks who are thinking similar to the question you posed, which is, why do I need any of this? It feels gimmicky. It feels like the bells and the whistles. It's not things I need at all. So can you talk about how, Miele decided to incorporate technology, but in a specific manner, so it's not like you're shoving tech in too soon, and then after a year, everyone realizes this is not for me. This is unnecessary.
Right. I think really the guiding principle for our company in general and for the development has been, of course, that we build products that are made to last at least 20 years, right? So really that useful life needs to be, needs to meet certain requirements. And longevity is not just about the quality of the appliance and the materials that we use and all the good stuff that creates that longevity. It's also about the technology and the functionality, right? Does it do something that really makes your life a little bit easier or creates better results? And I think that's been, consistently a guiding principle of what we do, and how we avoid some of these these gimmicky things that don't last, right? I mean, we always go back to the car industry and talk about how things are, you talk about car designs, right? And how things look. Some cars look great now, and then you get from like people who are reviewing them, they'll talk about, well, it's really not going to look that great in a few years, right? But in this case, it's really about the functionality and how to make that last a long time. So even when we talk about the displays, as you can see behind me, there are displays out there, for instance, that use a lot of color and a lot of flash. Ours are more about the intuitive nature of using it. They look great, but they're maybe a little bit subdued compared to some of the other products that are out there. But there's a reason for it, because it's really built to look good now and to be intuitive now, but also be intuitive, in 15 years from now, when you're in your kitchen and you still want it to be beautiful and useful. You're not changing things as frequently as you may in other areas of your life.
And that's a difficult thing, because as we were discussing earlier, if we're talking about more of the technological digital tech components of a product, we're so used to recycling or getting new things very quickly, like smartphones, which I think you had mentioned. Every 2 years we change. Even cars on a lease swap every 2 years. Computers swap every 2 to 5 years, whatever it might be. And when we think about an appliance like an oven, which typically people don't swap out every 2 years, right? That is a very long time to plan for. It's another interesting design kind of conundrum.
Yeah, no, and it's a very valid point, and it speaks to, many different topics. But one of the key things here is you can change your car. That's not a problem. You don't have to buy a new garage, right, to change your car. Unless you're going from, gasoline to electric, maybe then you have to make some updates. But in general, right, you don't have to change your whole garage or your driveway to change cars. And same thing with your phone. Yet the technology in your car is more and more important, right? When you're looking at it, when you look at cars that were from 4 years ago, well, now I've gone from wired Apple CarPlay to wireless Apple CarPlay. and I'd probably get in trouble from other parts of my family if I changed to a car where now taking that step back, I gotta connect my phone to use CarPlay. So those are things where you don't want to take a step back, and you can make that change fairly easily. Same thing with your phone, of course, right? With your appliances, it's a little bit different because you're buying a kitchen to last. You got to buy the whole kitchen, right? You can change certain appliances for sure, but it won't look the same. So you really are making a decision that is for the longer term. And you want to make sure that whatever I'm buying now is not going to be out of style. It's not going to look old. It's not going to work. It's going to work as well, or maybe even better than it did when I first got it. Mm-hmm. And that's really the goal for us. And of course, with connectivity in the appliances, you do have that option of now being able to upgrade. So when we're talking about working better, there are functions that you can add down the road then possibly, right? That will enable to do more with the appliances than you do when you first purchase them. So I think there's a lot of capabilities that we have to think about as we're making these appliances, introducing this new generation, because you're buying a kitchen not to last 2 or 4 years, you're buying a kitchen to last 15 to 20 years possibly.
Right. And the increased capabilities, you're talking about essentially a software update in a certain sense, right? Programming.
Right. So exactly right. So connectivity allows you then to download whatever cooking programs or updated cooking modes. So yes, the core functionality may not change, right? Because you've got certain elements that are part of the product that can't be changed, but you can expand really the feature set when it comes to whatever cooking programs or even simple example, but coffee systems, right? If a new type of coffee becomes popular, well, you don't want to get a new coffee system just because now you've got a favorite drink at Starbucks, but you can't make it on your built-in coffee system. Well, just imagine that you can download suddenly a drink or a modified drink. So I think there's a lot of options that come along with that.
Yeah, the hardware software sides to a product or a design or whatever it might be is super interesting because of that. And, you had mentioned also that people are now starting to have a basic understanding of some of the basic uses and advantages of this kind of connectivity. And is that a function of people just not being ready for it, or is it a function of the technology finally reaching a sort of tipping point to where it can be integrated in a way that makes sense?
Yeah, I think it's a combination. I think for many people, the connectivity question has been kind of daunting, right? Sure. I mean, when you think about, at least when I think about my own life, it's when we got our first Amazon Echo, right? And then it's like, okay, what do? You ask whatever, how many marbles you can put into the Grand Canyon or something, like trivia questions or things like that. Some random things, and people were like, wow, that's pretty cool. But you never really, and I think a lot of people still don't understand what other things you could do with that, for instance, right? And how now suddenly things are starting to combine that really do create some benefits. And oftentimes when it came to appliances specifically, the question was, okay, well, it's great that that I can connect my appliance, my washing machine or whatever, but okay, besides it telling me that it's done, what else can it do, right? And I think the capability may not be that exciting. Even the simple capability may not be that exciting when you first get it. But I will say that, besides when I first tested one of the dishwashers, I was actually on a business trip and I got a notification from the dishwasher that was done. And I texted my wife and said, oh, it's time to unload the dishwasher. I got in big trouble for that. But the benefit is there in so far that you you no longer have to keep checking on things, right? It's those simple things that once you start getting used to it, you get used to it and you start doing it, and you wouldn't want to do without it.
Yeah.
The real benefit, though, comes when, as people are starting to understand, there's more to it to that. But I think, that was kind of you're starting with very simple things and starting to understand what the benefit is. And you're starting to understand it from multiple angles, right? It's not just our industry trying to push this on people or trying to convince people of the benefits, but they're getting this from all different directions. And they're starting to kind of get, okay, you know what? I could do more with my Amazon Echo, right? Or I can Google or whatever you want to use. But I'm starting to understand where those benefits lie. And I think that's really where we've reached that tipping point where people are going from, I want it because, that's what everybody's talking about and that's what people are telling me I need, to I want it because I see the benefit.
Right. It's fascinating because some of these things, these changes, they take time. Like it almost from your guys' end, from the designer and production end, from the company, you can't just put out brand new stuff, even if you're dreaming of it and have the capacity. There's going to be a little bit of a period where people are adjusting to it and understanding. And I like the point you brought up of it's even the small, at the moment for now, or for some folks at least, the small, really subtle changes actually do make a really big difference. And that's something that I was commenting to Miranda the other day about iPhones. They make very tiny changes and you realize, oh, I don't have to push a button to log into my phone. Like it's like a huge difference despite it being one tiny button, or the fact you're getting notifications for the oven or for the dishwasher.
Yeah.
I also feel like a lot of people, and I mean, we do too, like we have things in technology that we don't know how to use fully, maybe we do know like the basic stuff, right? But I imagine with the Miele app that there's probably ways for people to learn how to do things with their appliances and kind of maybe use them a bit more than they would typically do.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great point. And I think that's where it goes back to kind of learning what the depth is, right, of the capabilities of these products. I talked a little bit about our steam oven and how people were overwhelmed by it and how you make some things very simple. I think with the app, you now have the capability of going in and learning more about the features and functions, or understanding, okay, you know what, there's, I have to reorder detergent, for instance, for my automatic dispensing dishwasher, right? With our power dishwashers, that's one of the benefits. But there's things that now give you capabilities of understanding even cycles. Why do I use certain wash cycles in my washing machine? Or how do I best prepare something in my combi steam oven? There's much more depth that we can add to the device and create these little aids, right, to being able to use these appliances that go beyond the manuals, which we know. Mm-hmm. I mean, what do you do with a manual? Once you have the appliance, you probably will never look at it again.
I have to say, I've always wondered if the manufacturers know that no one reads the manual. I
do actually, because I feel bad for people who put it together.
You're one of the few, and I'm proud of you for doing so. But we've learned over the years. It's a painful lesson to learn, but people do not keep them, and this is one way to overcome part of that issue, right? Is that this can remind you now of what needs to be done, or remind you of even the maintenance aspects of your appliance, which are very important depending on which appliance it is. But it does should be making your life easier, but also help the longevity, right, of the appliances.
For sure. I'm thinking about our listeners and, like our fellow architects and clients listening to the show. Going back to Generation 7000, can you tell us which appliances are part of this generation? And if when we are about to select them on a project, if it matters to select all of them in that same generation, or if we can kind of like mix them up?
Yeah. So yes, that's there's a lot of options that are coming with this generation. So when we're talking about generation 7000, we're primarily talking about built-in appliances, as you see behind me.
Okay.
So you've got a whole assortment of it includes our 30-inch ovens, which you see right here, 24-inch ovens. You've got our combi steam ovens. You have our microwaves, our speed ovens, which microwave and convection oven. Even the coffee systems are part of this generation. So you've got a whole assortment of different appliances. There's some updates that are coming for freestanding ranges as well to match up with the products. The key to this generation is that, yes, mixing and matching, even though this is an evolution when it comes to design, right? We try to create this timeless design that evolves over the generations. Old and new wouldn't be a good idea to mix and match. You definitely would see some inconsistencies in the products. But when it comes to the new, you do have a few options, right? Because one of the benefits here is you're going up the ladder of the different products. You do have differences in, for instance, the display. So behind me, if I can just point over here, you've got the M-Touch displays. And where we used to have M-Touch being kind of our highest end products, and then the step down would be our Sensortronic displays, which were definitely looked a little bit different. We now have what's called M-Touch S, which is a slightly smaller display that also has, M-Touch functionality. So you've got more consistency, so you can mix and match to a certain degree. It really depends on really how specific you want to be with some of these things. And we try to make it really versatile so that if you're, looking at one design line here, you've got the handleless design of our art line on this side. So when we're talking about our art line products, which are all handleless, there you really do have the capabilities of, adding to that assortment, which didn't exist before. So it's, you do have to stick with Generation 7000 as you're creating that kitchen, but you do have more versatility than ever before.
Gotcha.
Well, actually, that's a good point to jump on. So what are the different lines within the 7000? You mentioned the art line, and I know there's a few others, right?
Right. So really, again, the focus on the American market is really evident when it comes to the design lines. So in the past, we've had Pure Line. That's now being replaced by Vitro line. So you've got when it comes to the colors, so you've got the Contour line, which is really kind of that traditional heavy on stainless steel look, right? It gives you really robust look, fits into a lot of different kitchens. I mean, we say it's not just a traditional kitchen or farmhouse kind of style. It can go into a more modern kitchen, but it does appeal to those people that like their appliances to kind of stand out, right? That want something that's really prominent in their kitchen. Then we go to the Vitro line and kind of the Pure Line product, where you've got less stainless steel. In the Pure Line, you really have more of an accent on that product. And then you go into what's the Vitro line, which would be the different colors. Colors existed, really were part of the introduction of our Generation 6000. We've had some other variants in the past, but here now you go to a really clean look, right? Here you're looking at products that are a little bit more muted, that give you a lot of opportunities when it comes to, creating different themes in your kitchen, but really are not going to stand out as much. You could really kind of have them feel as part of the kitchen and a little bit more subdued. So you've got your obsidian black product, you've got the graphite gray, which is super versatile when it comes to adapting it to different design styles and cabinetry colors. And then you've got our brilliant white, which has been very popular, was actually the first color that we introduced back with before even Generation 6000 was launched. So you've got a lot of versatility. And the key here is that it's really introduced something to the market that gave you an option outside of stainless steel. So as popular and as much as we love our Contour line stainless steel appliances, you have a true different option where, and we talk about this all the time, but in the industry when it comes to appliances, manufacturers have always been looking for a replacement for stainless steel, right? What's the replacement for stainless steel? A different shade of stainless steel, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's really what, in the end, we've seen. Or, when it came to other appliances, other colors, it was often like, oh, okay, that's couldn't afford stainless steel, so they went with this white front, kind of color. In our case, it's about the depth of the product as well, and the color. So it's not, this step down looking product when it comes to colors. It really gives you a very high end look, but it gives you options that are far away from your traditional stainless steel.
Interesting.
It's funny because as a designer, we design contemporary kitchens, right? And the dishwasher can always be paneled, the fridge can be panels, and then the oven, what are you left with? Like black or stainless. So it's nice to have options. And so the way you guys do it is that, are you using basically like glass panels with a colored back or something?
Yeah, so this is, so you do see that they're glass fronts. So you do see, and that's what creates really the depth, right? It's not just a flat color. It really creates some dimension, or gives the product some dimension, and of course a little bit of reflection as well. But that really does give you a very consistent look, and also works really well with the interfaces, right? So you can actually change the color of our interfaces as well, to make them really blend in. Or you can adjust them to kind of stand out a little bit, and depending again of your preferences and also your needs when it comes to the displays. But it does give you a very nice aesthetic to the appliance. But I go back and I'm hoping not to step on anybody's toes when it comes to design of kitchens, because that's definitely not my area of expertise. But I've seen some really great results when it comes to using these appliances and looking at the appliances a little differently than in the past, right? In the past, it's always been, okay, stainless steel everywhere, but then cabinets, I'm going to do this and that, and maybe create an accent. And as we're creating more and more accents in different rooms, including the kitchen, really the coolest thing I've seen is creating an accent wall where, grays are in, where the appliances were kind of matching in with the gray background. And then having that as an accent wall and having the rest of the kitchen in a different color cabinetry, and even maybe using different appliances to match up with that. So I think it gives you some really cool creative ways to actually use the appliances.
And then there is the whole handle-less system. So if I'm cooking and I have that 50-pound turkey in a dish, how am I opening the door of the oven? Is it like a push-open system? Is there a motion sensor? Like, what's the technology there?
Yeah, so there are some requirements that we all have to abide by when it comes to appliances, right? Part of it is, safety-wise, that we have to make sure that not just anybody who's walking by opens the door of a hot oven. So there is a button that you do have to press to open the door, but the door opens, then automatically you can take a step back. You don't have to pull the door open as you did traditionally, so that makes things a lot easier from that perspective. So it is a very useful appliance. Because you now have, it really depends on, again, your style when it comes to the kitchen. But we try to avoid now having it's handleless, but, it looks great, but when you're trying to use it, it's not going to do exactly what you need it to, or be cumbersome to use. So within the constraints of requirements, safety requirements and such, we really design the products to be as user-friendly and versatile as possible.
Yeah, handleless. I love it. And you were also talking about, I think maybe before the recording, that you guys have gone through the effort to create more things that are at, and I correct me if I'm mistaken, the 30-inch width to eliminate extra lines, to eliminate trim that would be used to kind of infill the difference between I don't know, let's say a 24-inch wide appliance that has to fill a 30-inch space?
Yeah, so more than in the past, we started to introduce some appliances in the last generation that were 30-inch width. Our speed ovens were the first appliances really that went in that direction. We now add the combi steam ovens and also some coffee systems that have 30-inch width. And the key really is the perfect integration, right? That you really have a seamless look when you're combining these appliances, that the height of the control panels matches up so you can install them nicely together next to each other. And you can do combinations that you've never been able to do this before. So for instance, we do have 30-inch oven, then a 30-inch wide coffee system, or a combi steam oven, and then underneath a warming drawer, right? And that creates that perfect cubic design, which you've never been able to do before. And there's a lot of versatility in that. So you can really be very creative as you're creating that kitchen, that perfect kitchen design. And we see, with all the different options that we have now, people want to be able to take advantage of it, right? And they want that, I want the steam oven, combi steam oven, but I also want a coffee system. So how do I combine those things without having kind of random products kind of floating around in my kitchen? This really creates that seamless design and beautiful look that we strive for.
Talking about oven, and I don't know if most of our listeners know the differences. Can you briefly explain what is a combi steam oven, a split oven, a convection oven? Like how do they work, and what's their main maybe advantages of using either or? Yeah.
So when it comes to the regular convection ovens, we are using a dual fan system when it comes to our 30-inch oven. So we have two fans in the back that circulate the air. As we've always, liked to talk about, it actually is true kind of European convection. So there's actually a heating element that goes around the fans. So that way you get very even distribution as well as a rapid heat up of the oven cavity. And that technology is not that far from some of the combinations that we have. So then when we talk about the speed oven, for instance, there we're using a microwave, basically combining a microwave and a convection oven. So you do have a convection element. This is a single fan in the back of the oven, and you've got the microwave capabilities. And the nice thing about that is that you can combine the two to cook quicker, to brown, or you can use them separately. So, having owned one myself, sometimes I would just use it as, instead of having a toaster oven, for instance, right? You just use it as a quick way to warm something up or to bake something. So you've got all these different elements and capabilities combined in one unit. Now, these ovens also include, of course, the traditional kind of heating elements. So you do see the broiling element in both of these ovens. And unique, it's one of the unique features when it comes to our combi steam ovens. There we're also combining now a steam oven and a convection oven. And in this combination, we actually also include then a broiling element. So you can really do anything you would do in a regular convection oven in a full-fledged steam oven, and anything in between. So I mentioned earlier, you can do any percentage of steam and add it to your baking, which is great for baking bread. It's great even for baking, fish and anything where you want to keep it moist, or you want to brown things better. You want to render fats to create a nice crust. There are many things that you can do with these ovens, but the nice thing about it is you can use them in different ways. So now, instead of having to get a steam oven and a convection oven for a small kitchen, you can get a combi steam oven, and you've got your convection oven. You also have your steam oven, and you have everything in between.
Wow. So I could also get rid of the toaster oven on the counter and the microwave and just have the speed oven, and do it.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
It is very cool, and the multiple functionality of these appliances enable you to add other things, right? That's the nice thing about now. First of all, if you're lacking space, it gives you a lot of capability in one appliance, but it also allows you now, where maybe in the past you're thinking about getting, you wanted to get that coffee system, you're now, you need that coffee system because you're working from home. Now you may open up an opportunity to add that, right? Because you have one less appliance because you've combined it into, whatever your combi steam oven or your speed oven. So I think there's a lot of positives that come out of that, depending on how much room you have in your kitchen, how many appliances you want to fit in there.
Yeah, no, I think that's great options. And, oftentimes, again, we design a beautiful kitchen and then people actually move in, they start using it, and the counter is full of those teeny tiny appliances everywhere, right? So being able to kind of make 2 appliances in one or have more flexibility and get more space back is a huge advantage, I think.
Keep it clean, please, everybody.
keep it clean. Yeah, the only thing I have behind me, again, if you're watching the video portion of this, is a countertop coffee system. Again, we love our coffee around here, so that is one way to get still the coffee if you can't find a spot in your wall to include it. But definitely that it does open up a lot of opportunities for sure.
So I feel like the children's of the kitchen that gets the most attention might be the cooking appliances, right? I feel like the ovens have been getting a lot of attention. Can you tell us a bit more about what's new with the cooktops or ranges and all of these other pieces?
For sure. So we love our ranges. The ranges were introduced as part of generation 6000 or right around that time. And really were part of, us introducing products that were missing in our portfolio and are very specific to the US market, right? So that's, the rest of the world especially our friends in Europe will look at the ranges and say, "Oh my God, why would you need that?" And we say, "Yes, of course we need that. This is America." But it gives you a lot of flexibility and capability. And the nice thing about ranges is that our ranges fit so well to the rest of the design. So here too, we haven't reinvented ranges. More, we've adjusted and updated ranges. So now you've got the capabilities with Wi-Fi, and you've got some of the great features that are coming with the new generation. But you can now still create that kitchen where everything fits together. So if you got your contour line appliances with stainless steel, they fit perfectly to your range from the look and feel, but also from the interface. And the interface is key because across the appliances, you don't want to have to figure out, okay, how do I use the range? The range is totally different than me, right? You want to be able to go, okay, I get it. I know how to use this. I know how to use the M-Touch interface. Okay, I can figure this one out. It works exactly the same way. And that's one of the nice things when it comes to the ranges and how they kind of fit to the rest of the assortment. And the other cool thing about ranges is the fact that when it comes to, especially our 48-inch range, you have multiple appliances and functionalities in one product. So it really gives you that luxury feel, but you opening up another spot in your wall possibly for, again, going back to, combi steam oven or coffee system, because here you've got a convection oven on one side, that's a larger cavity. And then you've got really what is same as our built-in speed oven. So you've got your microwave taken care of. It is also a convection oven, as mentioned before. And then underneath, you've got a warming drawer. So you've got a lot of capability in one product, not even speaking about the cooking surface where you could have a grill or a griddle integrated, but it gives you a lot of flexibility in multiple appliances really contained in one kind of professional looking and performing range, which is very exciting for us. So the ranges are great. One of our favorite products when it comes to the range series, one of my personal favorite products, is that we do have our 30-inch induction range, which gives you a lot of capability. And induction is, a big part of what we've done. It's one of the benefits when it comes to the design. I think the design community and the architects are looking at this more and more as rules become more stringent and indoor air quality becomes more important. So I think induction really is what's to come in the future, just because it is, safety, performance, the efficiency, all those things are covered in a product that really gives you still that professional look. So you still see the heavy duty knobs when it comes to controlling the burners, and you get obviously the full-fledged convection oven with that as well. So we're always love that product for sure.
And you guys have something that I think you coined the term full service induction cooktop, which, if I'm not mistaken, allows you, because I've worked with induction cooktops before, and there's these kind of painted circles that tell you where to put your pot. Is that different for you guys?
So we do have what we call flex zones, where you can combine different cooking zones right now. Full surface is a technology that is starting to gain some traction here in the US. The thing is that, you want to get the best performance out of the cooking surface, and being able to define the cooking zones to a certain degree has been a benefit, especially as people are still getting used to the technology. They're kind of looking for, they may be used to their electric cooktop in the past, right? They're kind of looking for the defined cooking areas. So we do have combinable zones. And yeah, in the future, you'll see, full surface product gain entrance into this market as well. So that definitely, induction is an area that has a lot of opportunity and has to have a lot of opportunity, because there are areas where gas is becoming a little bit of a dinosaur, and for many reasons, right? So we definitely have to look into the future, what capabilities there are. And part of the capabilities when you talk about induction, I know this is a little bit of a sidestep to this, or a side note, but is the ventilation. Ventilation is always a big deal when it comes to cooking, and it really gives you a lot more flexibility when it comes to ventilation options as well.
Interesting.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense in a certain way if we think about, if everyone owns an electric car, you have a giant battery pack and solar on your house, and you're moving everything to electric.
Well, people are very passionate, right, about gas cooking, for sure. They like the flames. They like it's part of what we grew up with, and I think that's the part that the people like, and for sure we support that fully. But people haven't discovered yet the benefits of induction, because they do oftentimes think of the traditional electric cooktop, right, where you have a burner element that has to heat up, and then you put the pan on it, and then afterwards there's a lot of residual heat, so you got to watch out that when you're cleaning, you've got stuff that's kind of burnt into your ceramic glass cooking surface that you have to remove. And induction is completely different. You're cooking in the pan. You're not heating the surface. I mean, the surface starts to heat up when you're cooking for a while, because the pan obviously transfers some of the heat. But when it comes to cleanability, when it comes to the performance, it performs quicker than your gas range will. So it's, and it's, when it's off, it's off. So you're not overcooking things. So there's so many aspects to that beyond indoor air quality, which is a big concern now in many parts of the country, where they really gives you a lot of flexibility and ways to cook just as passionately as you did in the past, with the technology that really is leading us into the future.
Interesting.
And I think even just in terms of cleaning, you don't have to take out those burners and scrub them, right? You just wipe it clean, and then you have a surface you can use to put other things on. I mean, I think it's really the future.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I think it's so easy to wipe down. And I mean, if there's a way to sell these things, this is definitely one way to do for anybody who knows, right? The old cooking surfaces, but you don't have to worry about any kind of spills and cleaning up the spills. You just wipe it off, and it looks like new. I mean, it really is amazing how the cleanability just takes a lot out of, the efforts of cooking. And anybody who's had bigger spills, on a gas cooktop or range, you may run into other technical issues because then you have to clean the burners and all that good stuff. So yes, it makes a big difference in many ways, for sure.
Induction is pretty remarkable, and it's weird. It's so weird because you take the pot off, and you're right, it might be a little bit warm after a period of time, but more or less the surface is cold. Like, what kind of strange magic is happening with cooktop?
Yes, it is. It is. Part of it is actually magic. That's how it works. No, it is. It's a great technology, and we have dealers across the country that have been big proponents. So there's appliance dealers that once they catch on to this, they say they're converting people from gas to induction because they're such big believers in this.
We actually have a lot of clients asking us about it, and I think that their biggest concern is how does the food taste? They have, I don't know, for some reason in their mind, the idea that if it's cooked with gas, it tastes different than if it's not. And I think to me, it's more of a myth than a truth,
Yeah, no, definitely is a myth. That's for sure. No, gas cooking, I think it is the thought of the passion behind it. But in the end, you're heating up the cooking surface one way or the other, right? One is just much more efficient than the other. You just think about all the fumes and everything that you're creating. And there are people that are not using their or even specifying their ventilation properly. And it goes back to the fact that your indoor air quality, is of concern anyway, with all the various things that are going on in your house and your house being sealed better than ever before. It is one of those things where, this is definitely something that actually is much better for you and for the people that are cooking than having no impact on the flavor of the food, for sure. Yeah.
So one of the other probably big topics we should touch on is sustainability. Obviously incredibly important, which actually sort of ties into indoor air quality, I suppose. But sustainability, is there anything in particular that you guys are doing in that area, or how you view that issue as being resolved or addressed?
Yeah, I mean, resolution will come with time. I think that's one of the things I wish we had a resolution, that we could solve the problem overnight. But luckily it's becoming it's gaining more interest amongst Americans in general, right? And for us to really tackle this topic, because it is something that we do have to make some changes in our lifestyles, possibly, to get there. The nice thing about it is that when it comes to our appliances, partially because of where we're from, right? I mean, being a German company, we're building appliances for markets that are all about sustainability and efficiency because of, the costs of electricity and other things, other requirements, that we have products that are inherently built to be efficient and sustainable. I think when it comes to the performance, we talked about, induction now a little bit, and we'll go dwell on that topic too much, but induction is a perfect example where you don't need as much power in your hood, right? And you don't have to, you can do recirculating with your hood instead of taking conditioned air out of your house and blowing it outside and, wasting the energy that you're creating or using to either cool your house or heat your house, right? The hood itself, of course, is using energy, more energy when you're using a higher CFM hood. So, and you're turning on the product, you're heating up things quicker, you're getting that instant performance. So I think that to me is one of those things where we're able to get to a better place just by not even giving up performance, right? because I think here too, you're getting perfect cooking results, but you're not using as much energy or impacting your indoor, air quality and your makeup air issues and all the other things that come along with that. So I think cooking wise, that's definitely a good example. And then, we have product portfolios that go into even, dishwashing and laundry. Automatic dispensing, I think, has been a great topic for us, not just because of the convenience. And that's where we talk oftentimes about the whole thing about, having really purposeful innovation. Think about how much detergent you put into your washing machine when you're doing a load of clothes. Do you look at the labels and make sure you put the right amount in there?
So say, well, do I keep track of the manuals?
Well, first, who's doing laundry? That's the first question.
That is true, and I will say I learned that lesson with my daughters as they were in high school and started doing their own laundry, which I was happy about. But having something that's automatic dispensing, instead of them filling up the cup, of your regular detergent, is just dumping it in there no matter what they're washing. Here you're going for automatic dispensing that's dispensing the exact amount of detergent, right, and bleaching agent as needed for the load of laundry. So you're not wasting detergent, which is going back into the ecosystem. It's the same thing with our dishwashers, right, with the power disc dishwashers. You're putting in exactly what's needed. You're not just throwing in, a tab or whatever it is, thinking, okay, no matter what the wash is, I'm just going to throw this in there. It really is adjusting to the type of program and making sure it's using the right amount, right? Enough for sure, but not much more, as we're kind of used to kind of dumping stuff in there, which also speaks to the health, because residue of detergent in your clothes because you're putting way too much in there is not a great thing for your skin or, for you either. So there's a lot of aspects to that, but I think sustainability can be tackled in many different ways. And I think our benefit really is that we're creating products that are very efficient. One last example to that is when it comes to our, again, laundry, when we're talking about dryers. We introduced heat pump dryers, which nobody knew, a few years ago. We now are, amongst the most sustainable when it comes to these products. But the nice thing about it is that it was a technology where people had a lot of doubts, and people were like, oh, is it really going to dry my clothes? It's, 50, 60% more efficient than my traditional dryer. And we've created a product that actually doesn't just give you great efficiency and sustainability, but it also works really well and dries your clothes very quickly. So we're creating technologies that are inherently efficient, but they're also giving you the performance that people are looking for. And that was our big concern, especially here in the US and, working on the product side, is how do we get the performance that people are looking for with products that are really made more or positioned more in other countries towards creating this, efficiency story, which, has been a huge benefit for us in showing people that products don't have to have a but when you're talking about them. It's really efficient, but it's going to take 3 times as long to dry your clothes. Those are the stories that used to be part of the positioning when it comes to marketing these products, but that's no longer the case.
Yeah, and I can see where the different markets, meaning between countries or specifically the United States and more European countries, would be different. I don't think, and this is a generalization, of course, but I don't think Americans like sacrificing any level or ounce of performance or quantity or speed or convenience or anything. So that's interesting.
You said it, not me.
Yeah. You're the European. You should have said it. Can you explain actually real quick the difference between the dryer that you were mentioning, which is heat pump powered? It's not really right, but heat pump powered versus not? Like what's happening there?
Yeah. So if you go back a few years, when I first started, actually, we still had vented dryers. So the traditional vented dryer is a technology which basically, is constantly heating the air. It's pulling the air into the dryer. It's heating it up and blowing it through the drum where the clothes are, and then blowing it outside, through ductwork or, then outside your house. Right. That's essentially what's happening in a traditional vented dryer. So you're constantly heating it the whole time. We had then moved to condenser dryers, which are using sealed systems, so it's not venting to the outside anymore. And basically, you're still using a heating element, but now you're cooling the air and creating a condensation effect, right? So you have a condenser unit that's in the dryer. You're circulating air that's usually coming from the room and just circulating through the condenser. It's a sealed system, so you're not actually getting air from the dryer into your room, which was a misconception by people in the past. But it's a little bit dependent on, you're still heating the air, of course, and it's a little bit dependent on the air that's in the room. So if the room is very warm, then your condenser dryer is going to have some impact on the performance, right? The heat pump dryer is more of an active condensation cycle. So here you're basically using a refrigeration cycle to create the cold and the hot, right? So using the cold and the hot parts of this in coolant, refrigerant, to actively cool the air as it's circulating through the drum, and then through the condenser. So you're cooling the air on one side, and then you're heating and taking the moisture out, and then you're heating the air as it goes back into the drum. So we're actually not using any additional heating elements or anything. We're just very effectively taking the moisture out of the air that's being blown through this cycle. And it's a sealed system, so there's no impact on the ambient climate in your laundry room or anywhere else. So it's really a very effective way to dry your clothes, and it's very quick. I mean, speed-wise, we actually, as part of the development for the U.S. market, we did put more emphasis on speed than efficiency, but where we netted out, because it is such an efficient way to do these things, we're still at 50 to 60% more efficient when it comes to energy use than your traditional vented dryers.
That's a crazy percentage.
Yeah, that's a lot. And you don't have to have that vent pipe that goes up to the roof, right? So I mean, it's much easier to install.
And that's one of those things where two people, first of all, as I learned this year, is my neighbor called and actually had a dryer vented fire, right? That started because the vents were clogged over time, and that's the worst case scenario for sure. The maintenance, of course, is key to keeping your dryer functioning well. But people are always thinking about, okay, well, vented dryers are much more effective because you get more heat and you get to blow this air through there. But it really requires that you have a great airflow all the time, right? Besides the fact that you're using a lot more energy, but you really have to have perfect airflow at all times to really get the best results. And that goes away pretty quickly because you do get a buildup of lint in the ductwork over time.
Right. Yeah. What about the refrigeration system? Is there anything new and cool happening with that? Is there a secret way now that we can keep produce for a longer time?
So refrigeration, obviously, Master Cool has been, our a line of refrigeration when it comes to really the pinnacle of refrigeration appliances. We just introduced the second generation, over a year ago now, but we've had some updates to that as well. I think the versatility there too, the combinations that you can create are a big part of this. That we do have now, 36-inch French door, which we didn't have in the first generation of Master Cool. So that's a nice addition. We see that there's some popularity around that because, in the past, we love to talk about our 36-inch freezer and 36-inch refrigerator combinations. But quite honestly, when you, as we were talking earlier about entertaining in your kitchen, if you have an island and you're trying to open a door that's for a 36-inch appliance, it does start to become a little bit of a problem. So that's where the French door does create a little bit of a design option that works for many. The other thing is that as far as connectivity, it's part of the appliances now. So again, talking about convenience, being able to come back from, especially people like to buy local produce, but coming back from the farmer's market and being able to tell the appliance to go to increase the cooling level and to go to super cool, for instance, to make sure that everything is cooled down a little bit more. When you put everything in there, you have the door open, that you don't lose or warm up the appliance too much or the cavity too much is a nice feature. And then you've got again, when we're talking about handleless design, push to open and open assist, which is nice. So you can actually go for a handleless design now with your refrigeration as well. So really creates a really super clean look, right? You can get your custom panels and really integrate it into the rest of the kitchen, along with our dishwasher, our knock to open dishwasher if you want. So you really can now have a full handleless design throughout your kitchen using these appliances. So we're very excited about that.
It's interesting.
That's really cool.
The changes in a lot of products, toward a very, very clean face, no buttons, no physical buttons, right? There's no more keyboards on phones, none of that stuff. Clean. You had mentioned a couple different terms like knock to open, soft open, etc. What are the differences between those?
Yeah, so it really depends on the appliance. So for our dishwashers, we have knock to open. So you just knock on the front of the dishwasher twice, and the dishwasher will open. So if you really want that clean look, right, that's the way to open the dishwasher. Push to open is for refrigeration. So that's where you push on the door and it opens up. Same thing with our under-counter wine units, where you can do that. So you have a really clean look, but slightly different ways of opening them. But again, it's super easy when it comes to that. Soft close is a little bit different, of course. That's where the appliances, you used to, actually speaking of ovens specifically, but I was in one of our big, Home Depot and Lowe's. Whenever I go there, I'll look at the appliances and and I was showing my wife one of the ovens. I was just, kind of looking at what's out there. And I just kind of opened it up. I looked at it and I closed the door, and you just hear this big clap, right? And I felt like everybody's looking. The guy that's working in that area was looking over. I'm like, oh boy, I totally forgot that's really one of the nice things about our appliances with the soft close. You do have hinges, not just on the ovens, but also refrigeration, right? Where you're avoiding that. You don't have this big slamming. It actually does have this quality feel to it. When you're closing the door, it closes with dampers and mitigates some of that commotion, if you will. But it also really helps when you're cooking, right? When you have your hands full and you're closing the door on your range, you don't want to have this big clap as it closes. So very nice and quality feel across the board, and different appliances as well.
I feel like we're being pampered by the things you guys are producing. I want to ask, what were some of like the biggest challenges with the Generation 7000?
I think that the challenges when it comes to the launch of a new generation is just really, and that's really where we are right now. Besides of course, the development phase and looking at what we need for these products. Those things have been determined a while back, of course, and we've been working on that for some time, as we discussed earlier. So we think we kind of nailed those things down, but we do go through the testing. We do go through, some of the developments, even when it comes to the cooking programs, all the way to close to the launch, which presents some challenges. I think the challenge for us is making sure that we have everything in place. We communicate everything to our retail partners, to the specifiers, right? And making sure that they understand what's coming, what's new, how to sell the products, how to highlight all the new features that are coming with these appliances. So that really it's the coming closer and closer to launch, making sure that really we position the products well, and people are excited about the products, but also are ready to sell the products, and really are understanding all the great features that are coming with the products.
Right. That's interesting. Almost the communication aspect of the thing, not just the thing itself necessarily.
Yeah, for sure. I think we love, obviously we love talking about the products. I mean, there's so many things to talk about. We always talk about what's our favorite product and all that good stuff, but it's getting that across to other people that don't know the products yet, right? That are new to Miele, for instance, and that are looking at the ovens and saying, okay, well, that looks like a regular oven. Like we said earlier, why combine a steam oven and a convection oven? What's the benefit? How should I look at my kitchen with that? Why do I need that instead of a regular 30-inch oven? Those are all things that we need to really get across to even the design community, that maybe looking out there, they're looking out for obviously the clients and what they're looking for, but the clients may not even know the benefits, right? So we really want to get to those people that are influencing the purchase decision and to help make the right decision.
Yeah. So I would ask then, what is your favorite appliance and what is your favorite feature?
Right. So this is a difficult one.
This is the most challenging question.
Yes. And I know you posed this question to Jan Heck as well. And I would agree with him. The coffee system definitely is way up there. I would say, though, for everyday life, and especially, it became more evident during COVID as we're cooking more at home. Induction range is got to be that appliance where it's so versatile, and induction cooking, as I spoke about earlier, is such a great way to go. That really became one of my favorite appliances. Look, dishwashers will always be at the top of my list because it just makes my life so much easier and it's so easy to use. Laundry was super important to me before lockdown, because we were in the office and I always had to worry about, washing my shirts. I would do my own dress shirts program away from all the other laundry that we're doing, so I could get perfect results all the time. And that definitely made my life a little bit easier as well. But I would say that over the last, 20 months or so, our range became number one.
Interesting. And any particular feature that stands out for any of the products?
When it comes to, range, the speed of cooking and being able to, boil pasta within, seconds, not minutes, it's definitely, having the boost function on our cooking zone is definitely a huge benefit. The other thing is just the fact that, when it comes to our baking programs, the M-Touch, it makes things so easy to navigate. I never have a problem just, turning on the appliance, choosing the right program and getting going. So I would say that it's just the overall functionality is amazing, not to speak of, just the results. And I would say during COVID, when everybody was baking bread, one of the things at the top, right, that went right to the top is the fact that we do have automated bread programs. And one of the features in our ranges and also in some of our built-in ovens is that there's water connections to the appliances, so we can create bursts of steam during the cooking process. So when it came to this baking of bread, it's amazing what kind of results you get by being able to do that. So I would say that, you know, that's definitely one of the features that really helped out during this time.
That's cool. It feels like a lot of these things, it's interesting to hear, you know, also the amount of effort and research and design it takes for you guys to do to make things simpler, to make one subtle change, to eliminate some seams, some visual seams, to make a larger appliance, or to make the interface easier, or to offer these programs and whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like all the effort that goes into just making this one tiny shift, which again in daily life it stacks up and it makes like life almost automated in a sense. We have more time to do other things, more focus to do other things even, or to try new recipes. Who knows? Yeah,
no, for sure. I think the simplicity in a lot of what we do now and what the appliances allow you to do, you know, without a lot of effort, makes really a huge difference. And I think it does impact your overall lifestyle. We know how busy we all are. And, you know, it's tough to manage everything. And the nice thing here is that this takes some of that out of your life, right? So that you can focus on other things. And even if it's little details that make the difference. And I think that's what we're learning as we go along. I mean, we talked about the connectivity and the benefits of connectivity a little bit earlier. The little act of not having to walk to, you know, my washing machine to see, oh, is it done yet? Saves me a little bit of time. I could dedicate to something else, right? Or not be bothered by something. Yeah. So I think those are those little things that are, first of all, getting us to now understand the benefits of connectivity, but also are just genuinely having technology help us make our lives a little bit easier.
Fantastic. Well, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the future. It sounds exciting.
Yes, it's coming.
Do you have a specific date for the launch?
Yeah, so we're launching, this is going to be early Q2 of next year. We will be showing this product in detail across all the design lines at KBIS in February next year. So we're starting to ramp up as we're going along, you know, showing and sharing more information, video content and all kinds of things. So it's coming and as we're specifying and looking out further, right, in planning, I think this is really important for us to, before you know it, it's going to be on the market. So we're excited.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and explaining to us some of these things. I think people will find it fascinating. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. This has been a lot of fun. And
thank you, everybody, for listening to this week's episode. If you like what we're doing, then please support our show by subscribing to our channels on YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes, aka the Apple Podcast app. You can also leave a review in the Apple Podcast app. That's a great way to support us. And how else can they find us?
Our website, hello at, no, that's the email address. The email address, hello@secondstudiopod.com. The website is secondstudiopod.com. Yep. We are on all of the social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We also have the hotline. Did you mention it?
Yep, hotline 213-222-6950. Feel free to text that number for questions, feedback, whatever. Also, announcement, we are hiring someone to help us with the audio and video editing, plus some other responsibilities. And we do have the job, in quotes. I mean, it's like a part-time kind of lightweight gig. But we have the description for the job application on our website. So if you go to secondstudiopod.com/hiring, there's a list of bullet points as to the qualifications we're looking for. And if you don't have all the technical stuff, like some of the licenses, or you don't know how to use the software that we use, we're fine with teaching it to you because it shouldn't be that difficult. I'm thinking from the perspective of like an architecture student. If you can use all the programs that most students use these days,
It's not a big deal.
then you can use these.
Yeah.
I'll just have to
Otherwise, that
walk
means
you
you're
through it.
stupid.
Yeah.
Great.
Right?
Yeah, that's it. All
Cool.
right.
Cool.
Talk to you guys next week.
Happy 2022. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.